Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Pacific Championship Series. You are in week 2 of the playoffs. We're starting out in the loser brackets. We've had a lot of action, a lot of 3-0s, but so far, no surprises. All of this is going to change today, though, as we have second-seeded J-Team taking on the second-seeded World Representatives from 2021 and Beyond Gaming in a match to the death. Whoever loses this best of 5 today will be sent home packing. And we did not expect either of them to go out so soon. So this one is going to be a huge matchup, our most contested one in the playoffs so far. But before we go into the matchup, we have to give a big thanks to our sponsors, CTBC Bank and Caliber, and of course, our organizers at Riot Games, Carry Live, and Garena as well. I'm going to be your host and play-by-play for the day, Clement Chu, and with me is the ever-so-brilliant Nightstar, as I like to call him, Frank Nightstar. So welcome to the show, and first off, let's talk a little bit about Beyond Gaming, because so far they've played 7 games, but we haven't seen them this week. How do you think they've done so far?
Yeah, when we take a look at the first 2 series, I would say it mostly played to expectations. I would even say the way they won game number 1 was a little bit surprising from the DCG series. And then things kind of fell apart. But let's just say Beyond Gaming are not a TF team.
Not a Twisted Fate team. Okay, I can fully concur with that one. We're going to be taking a look at what has happened so far. We are starting today in the loser brackets, J-Team versus Beyond Gaming. That's going to be N7 on the bottom of your screen. For Beyond Gaming, they have lost a 3-1 series to DCG, but then trampled over Impunity with a 3-0 of their own. And the other side, J-Team has came in with a little bit flat-footed. They lost the series 3-0 to CFO, and, we frankly haven't seen them show up just yet.
Yeah, they certainly haven't quite arrived into the playoffs. I hope it changes in this particular series, or, it has to change this series, right? Because if they don't show up for playoffs, then they're already out of playoffs without coming to the party.
That's true. That's very true. But I guess the bigger question is, what do you think the win condition for J-Team is going to be in this series? If we look at the head-to-head, they actually triumphed over Beyond Gaming in a 2-0 during the regular split.
Yeah, I think the main condition, of course, is enabling this mid-jungle of Kongria Uniboy. They've played through them the entire season. And then in the CFO series, they kind of strayed away from it. Yes, CFO played very, very well, but at the same time, J-Team also got away from what made them successful. So go back to fundamentals on how you got to the playoffs, and I think they'll look a lot better this time around.
All right, so mid-game coming strong for the J-Team side, and on the other hand, for Beyond Gaming, I think this is pretty interesting in their playoffs. They've actually shown a lot of ingenuity. We saw the Zillion pick coming out from their bot lane, and Wako holding the fort with the damage share right here. What do they need to kind of buckle the trend of them just losing to J-Team?
Yeah, I think it has to come down to playing through that bot lane 2v2. Kino and Wako have probably been our 3rd best bot lane duo in the PCS ever since Koala and Shun really stepped up their game. So I have them ranked 3rd, and against Lil V and Enzo in the CFO series, they really underperformed, and I think this is a good opportunity for them to bounce back. But at the same time, for Beyond Gaming, this is the lane that you can just smash the game through.
Yeah, I have to concur. J-Team, their bot lane didn't really look that good against CFO. I think especially Little V, in the very last game, there was multiple team fights where he wasn't even able to get a single auto attack off. He needs to bounce back right now. He needs to get his head into the game. That performance was not how you want to go out from the postseason whatsoever. On the other front, J-Team, the rest of their members were pretty much hard-gapped by CFO in all of their lanes. Hopefully they can do a turnaround from what we've seen in the previous games in their head-to-heads. Uniboy has just been popping off. I don't think they're going to give him Zoe anytime soon. He had a flawless game on that champion when going up against Minji.
Or it could just be the fact that Beyond Gaming go ahead and take it for themselves as well, right? Because Minji also known for his Zoe, and we've had a couple interesting series where there's been a lot of mid lane picks that just become contested, and it's not your traditional meta mid laners, right? Although in our first series with DCG against Beyond Gaming, there was an Ahri, big Ahri focus, but I think in this particular series, we're going to see a lot of that Zoe focus because of how proficient both mid laners are on that champion.
Now we're going to move ahead to the Beyond Gaming side of things. Liang going to be starting out as your top laner today. We did have Lee Kai sub in for game 4, of the DCG series. The rest of the lineup will remain the same. Husha, Minji, Wako, and of course Kino in the bottom side right here. We're taking a look at Liang as your top laner, and to be honest, like, Liang has had one of the best laning stats out of any player in the PCS. He averages 988 gold in the lead at 15 minutes. But so far against Driver, do you think they are going to be able to continue that stretch?
Yeah, I feel like coming in from the regular season, Liang looked like one of the top 3 top laners in our league, but since playoffs, he's really kind of dropped down when it comes to performance-wise. Wasn't able to get the maximum out of matchups against Leaky, and then also in the Impunity series, he got solo killed by Quiet. Like, there was the one highlight play with Quiet on that Gnar, being able to throw the prediction rock right onto Liang, but Liang has had a tough playoff so far, and I would love to see him bounce back, but Driver pretty rock solid with his team play, and maybe it's in the lane phase that Liang can try and exploit.
We are going to be taking a look at a head-to-head of these both mid laners. As you mentioned, I think both of them have very limited pools as we have seen, but those pools are a little bit different. We do have the Akali and Ahri coming in for Minji, and Uniboy with his big 3 in the Syndra, the Zoe, and the Orianna.
Yeah, very stark differences when we talk about the mid lane champion pools on both sides. Uniboy very much more of the control mage. He pulled out the Vex, but remember, it was against Sem9, so you know, a grain of salt over there. But on the flip side, for Minji, he has really tunneled onto these assassin style champions with the Akali. The Vex even as well has that can play more assassiny along with that Ahri, but we always have to remember that pocket Zoe, even though he hasn't brought it out as much.
Yep, and here we go in the draft phase right away. Everyone knows that Minji pretty much plays his 2 best champions, Akali and Ahri, so J-Team could be setting themselves up to take that one away. They've already banned the Akali, of course. Aphelios on the board as well. LeBlanc being banned away. It does seem like a pinch is coming. On the other hand, for Beyond Gaming, taken with the Zeri, but also the Tahm Kench.
The Tahm Kench is really to deny the Tahm Kench Jinx combination. I would say it seems to be, when it first came into the PCS, it felt a little bit over prioritized, but at the same time, Jinx still probably the best AD carry on this current patch.
I would have to concur with that. Jinx, great performance rate, win rate, and J-Team actually forced the Ahri ban from Beyond Gaming themselves. They're going to get the Syndra, like we talked about, very pinch pulls from both sides, and the question has been in the playoffs for Minji, what is there behind the Akali and the Ahri? You mentioned it, we were not satisfied with the Twisted Fate. So let's see if the Zoe gets picked in the first rotation, or are they going to risk a ban coming into the second phase?
If this Nautilus pick does get locked in, it might suggest we could see a lot more support priority in this series, just because of how Enzo is really tunneled in onto the Nautilus for one of his main support champions. Kino also a brilliant engaged support, so he gets that for game number 1. And for J-Team, they go ahead, round out that first phase with a Tryndamere and a Hecarim. The Tryndamere pick, I feel like, is more of a denial pick away from Liang, rather than Driver being like, yeah, this is a lane I can just fully stomp with this Trynd pick.
Yeah, it has been Liang's best champion throughout the entire split. And I think if you think about the normal Trin counters, Liang really isn't on the same level as just with the Tryndamere itself. So we're going to see how that one goes. Beyond Gaming going to deviate from their usual bans, the Zoe not being touched. They're going to go with the Vex instead. And for the ban phase, it looks like they're taking away some engage options. Rakan off the table here. On the other side for J-Team, they know the Malphite has been a very standard answer, and they're just going to take that away from Liang.
Yeah, I would expect the Malphite and then the Gragas. Liang has played 2 games of the Gragas pick. Maybe they try and take away the Gnar, but I think in the Gnar matchup, the Tryndamere can get snowballed pretty hard in that instance, whereas the Gragas can just kind of neutralize you even if set behind.
Yeah, we definitely could see that coming to fruition here. A couple other matchups we have seen against the Tryndamere. The Jax has come out. Of course, Hanabi has actually just straight out won the lane with the Gnar anyway. So a lot of different options still left on the table here. Beyond Gaming on the flip side, very interesting bans. They're actually taking away the counter engage options. And there goes the Jax, as we have mentioned, with the counter strike that can really block a lot of those auto attacks.
Yeah, and last time it was Liang that locked in the Jax, or not the Jax, but the Tryndamere, and J-Team with Driver answered back with the Jax, and he really popped off in team fights with the Jax, but didn't have a great lane phase. However, Beyond Gaming, they go ahead as expected, locking the Gragas. It's a solid neutralizing pick. I wouldn't say that it completely neutralizes, as depending on how it's played, it can find its timing still, and we are going to see the set locked in. So Enzo, we're seeing a bit of a lot of flipping here. You know, we kind of expect Kongria to be the one to play the Lee Sin. We expect Aquino to pull out the set, and in game number 1 we have a little bit of champion swaps.
It does feel like J-Team are some like Wall Street apes, you know. They love flipping stocks and just making a profit off of that. Overall, I think the composition kind of plays itself. They have a ton of champions that just rush in. The question is, what is Beyond Gaming going to answer with? Oh, a Varus, one of Wako's better champions in previous splits, but we haven't really seen it in this meta.
Yeah, we haven't seen it as much, but when the shift goes towards the lethality, more utility-focused carries, Varus, of course, one of those premier carries in that regard, being able to lock down targets with his ultimate, but also have that long range to really chip targets down. And I think it's a very creative lock-in, but remember that Varus has been hit a little bit because of how prominent he used to be in the meta. So the number's not quite there. Still plays all right, but I personally would have liked to see something like the MF or perhaps even an Ashe.
Okay, so 2 different utility champions that you mentioned right there. I do want to dig into it a little bit because I think it has a lot to do with the compositions. I understand what J-Team want to do. It's very obvious. They have a ton of champions that just run at you, but I'm not so sure about Beyond Gaming's composition. So what do you see out of this comp, and how does the kind of AD carry picks fit into it?
Yeah, I feel like it's going to be a pretty individualistic, right? You have the Varus that wants to kind of sit back, poke in, the Lee Sin that wants to find his own timings, and it really just comes down to the synchronization coming in from the top side, because there's a lot of dive coming in, right? You have Gragas, you have Lee Sin, you have Vex, you have Nautilus. So if they can get access onto this fairly immobile backline, this could be very devastating for J-Team moving on through the game, but for Beyond Gaming, it is also a big risk that they are taking.
Okay, so we'll see how these 2 compositions do run out right here. Going into the level 1s, always worthy to mention, Beyond Gaming do have some of the most creative level 1 setups and highest first blood rates out of the PCS, sitting at 83% right here. But for the level 1, we will have J-Team placing a ward right in front of Husha. Both teams should know that vision is there. And on the flip side, we do not have Beyond Gaming answering back that ward.
Yeah, it will be pretty conservative start, surprisingly, coming in from Beyond Gaming, but they will be able to sweep out the ward up in that top side. They actually pulled Kino all the way over to make that roam. So, at the very least, utilizing the red trinket to its fullest. And I think when it comes to this early game, it's going to be about Kongria being able to stamp out any aggression Huxia wants to commit here, because they have a decent amount of CC, right? You have the Nautilus and you have a Gragas, so decent setup for Lee Sin to really make an impact in these lanes. And Kongria, you have scaling on your side, you just need to make sure this Lee Sin doesn't get ahead.
So I think Huxia, as you said, most likely heading to the bot side. It does seem to be the only lane where he is expected to get some ganks off. In the meantime, we do have an assisted start from Kongria onto the bottom. As you mentioned, most likely just going to speed up into that onslaught of shadows right here. Mid lane, we have seen this matchup a couple times before, and I just want to say, from my memory, it does not go very well for the Vex. It typically does get pushed in right here. And in the top lane as well, Driver hitting that early level 2, going to go in onto Liang. He does take some damage back, but this is a lane where typically it's just a neutralizing lane for Gragas. You don't expect him to win this one out either.
Yeah, certainly don't expect the Gragas to hard win this lane, and it's about being able to constantly bounce these waves back to prevent Tryndamere from crashing these towers. And so far, Beyond Gaming, a strong 2v2 in this bottom lane, performing up to par.
Yeah, we did see a good poke coming in from Wako. Just a thing to point out, he is running the Arcane Comet, so those Qs will start to stack up, hurt quite a bit with the piercing arrows right here. They have controlled the bot lane minion wave, and now we do have Huxia coming in for a potential gank right here. Uniboy already at half HP. Minji just about to get his passive off. Can they land the fear? Minji is going in, but Uniboy hits the brush before he can get anything to land. Huxia shows himself, and Uniboy stays safe.
Yeah, and it's just really good positioning coming in from Uniboy, understanding where his jungler was and where Huxia was, and now a lot of return damage. The mana is a little bit low, so I don't think they're going to be able to find lethal unless Kongria really wants to push for this dive, but he understands if he does that...
Oh, Comet takes him down! Wako cannot stop laughing at this one. We've seen this play from the previous series in CFO. Nautilus always found the dredge line. Driver this time around, knowing the jungler is on the map, wants to get something back for Liang, but Liang will stay alive here. And the woes of Little V Xayah versus the Nautilus continues into the second series.
Oh man, he was just eating hook after hook, but now Driver possibly out of position. Liang trying to take an aggressive posturing as we get to see the replay. Yeah, Lil V in our previous series just could not dodge Koala's hooks, and this time it remains true. And I mean, his positioning in the lane was a little bit suspect, right? Wasn't hiding behind those minions, and we do enter a bit of a pause. So we'll see what the pause is up. But Lil V, not looking great so far, Clement.
Yeah, we do have to mention that the strategy from CFO in the last series was just to first rotation pick Nautilus every single game because they were doing so well on the dredge lines against the Xayah from Little V. Like, he was unable to flash away or even use his Feather Storm a lot of times in that series. So we'll see if Little V can regain his confidence, but it's not looking good so far. I think if you looked at that play, he also panic flashed a little bit too early. Didn't save it for the Q, which the piercing arrow, which also has the execute. That's the one you really want to dodge, not necessarily the auto attack.
Yeah, and I mean, Lil V, it's surprising to see him underperform because he is the most senior member left on J Team, right? With a lot of the previous members departing, Driver, yes, he's been on the team for a decent amount of time, but at the same time, he wasn't a starter. So he wasn't that mainstay player on stage. And Lil V, you expect a lot more from him. Unfortunately, starting out a bit cold. Not sure if it's a carryover from the previous series, or maybe he's just not had a good week.
Hopefully he returns to form. Just a small reminder, Little V is always going to be going into the Hall of Fame because he did take down FPX and LWX back in 2019. Made LWX look like a complete noob. So, you know, he's always going to have a special place in our hearts. But unfortunately, this playoffs has been incredibly rough for him. And I do want to talk about maybe the strategical shift that we could see coming, because J-Team in the past, at least I think in the first half of the split, was very much focused on Little V being that hyper carry. With Little V being in the form he is right now, do you think J-Team need to shift elsewhere? It just looks kind of hard for him to keep the same role.
Yeah, I mean, in the first series, we saw a lot of utility champions coming out from Driver, a lot of weak side play. So I think in this series, I mean, they've already started out with Driver getting his hands onto the Tryndamere, so I think the approach is
and
a bit
so
different.
Gonna go in with the flash, a little bit unexpected since both sides clearly knew that multiple members were here. Sorry to cut you off on that one, but it will just be a flash for flash trade, slightly in favor of J-Team.
Yeah, I would heavily favor J-Team in that instance, right? Because even though they burned the flash and the ghost onto Kongyue, you're not very concerned about those summoners, right? Because the ghost is going to come up a lot faster, and also when you are playing the set, you're perfectly comfortable running with the Hex Flash, at least in the lane phase, because you get a lot more, honestly, a lot more lane pressure from having your flash down than having it up.
Always can Hex Flash through weird angles right there. We are going to see J-Team now heading towards the bottom side, trying to catch people out. As you mentioned, Enzo with the Hex Flash still has a good chance of starting something here, but Husha is unspotted. Oh, there he goes.
There he is.
Kongyue
Yeah.
sees him right now, and that should be the end of the play as we see both sides now backing off.
Yeah, and so far, Kongyue looking very good on the Hecarim, doing what we expected him to do, and that is just continue to outpace this Lee Sin and make sure that this Lee Sin doesn't have a ton of impact. And so far, 6.5 minutes, it's, not a lot of time on the clock, but you have a 1 level advantage, and Husha, he's not going to hit level 6 anytime soon, so I think you're very comfortable if you are at the side of J-Team here.
I just want to toot our own horns for a little while because we did predict how the lanes would go quite well. Driver has an advantage here in the top side. We have Boy pushing in. But in the bottom side, Wako continues to be the main win condition for Beyond Gaming. I think he's been the best performing member on the squad throughout their playoff games. And for a side note, he also is the main carry with 29.8% of the team's damage. Damage being dished out from this position alone. So Wako off to a good start. Definitely something Beyond Gaming fans want to see. In the meantime, we do have that level 6 gank that we've been anticipating coming in. It doesn't look like Kongyue is going to go for it. Maybe if Wako steps up just a little bit, there would be an opportunity here. But Kongyue does make the back in the end. I do want to ask your opinion on where do you think this first crucial ultimate is going to go for the side of Kongyue's Hecarim?
Yeah, I mean, for Kongyue, the clear target is either the mid or the bot lane. And bot lane, you would love to be able to kill and try and slow down this Varus, right? But the issue is, the Lil V is just so far behind. So it's one of those things where you'd love to gank it, but if I gank it, it goes wrong. Then it goes really, really wrong, right? Because then all of a sudden you've pretty much knocked your own bot lane out of the game. So it's a very high risk play if he decides to go into that bot lane. But at the same time, this mid lane, Vex can be very difficult to lock down because of the CC and the shielding coming in from her kit.
We are going to see Kongyue drop 2 pinks into the top side and start the Herald.
Man,
but this does leave bot side rather open right here, as we do see multiple members going there. Kongyue going to go for Minji, does find the fear, and Uniboy unleashes the power unleashed there for the kill. They do head over towards mid lane and now start onto the Herald in the meantime. Beyond Gaming trying to equalize by taking down the bot side tower.
Yeah, they should be able to get a lot of these plates, but um, just because it was full 4 current plates in that bot lane at the moment, I don't think they'll be able to burn it down. So that's why they've already rotated Huxia over to the Dragon, so they are able to sort of trade 2 objectives for 1 in that instance, but Minji ends up falling, and that's big because now Uniboy, 20 CS lead, now has a 1 kill to his name as well. The Uniboy is set up very, very well to succeed in this early game.
Now J-Team heading straight for the top side. Liang cannot even hold his own tower at this point. J-Team, if they take an extra plate, Herald could just go down, but Liang's going to step up here, make sure his second plate doesn't go over. He still is holding on to that explosive cask in case he needs it right here. So we'll see a little bit of trading back and forth, very light from both sides here. Liang getting the better of this trade. And it does seem like overall, Beyond Gaming actually don't fare too bad overall for that trade, because they do pick up 2 plates on the bottom side. And now we have Wako coming in with a 10-minute Eclipse Mythic Power Spike.
He is certainly ahead of the curve. Here is, if you look on the other side, Lil V is very, very far behind. I mean, yes, he's the only thing he's really ahead of is going to be that tier stacking, but that's not going to help out a whole lot in this instance. So Wako, he's going to be dominating this bot lane even more so, and we'll see if Kongya is able to influence the spot side now that his second ultimate is now up and available.
See if he goes into the bot lane, or will he continue to go for
Man.
Minji?
Oh,
Uniboy finds the stun directly into the Unleashed Power ultimate.
Oh.
Minji keeps his distance right here, and Kongya will not chance the ultimate. Minji still has a TP if he wants to go back to take it, but he's very close into kill range. We have Huxia popping over the wall. Doesn't find the Sonic Blast, and the 3-man rotation from Beyond Gaming will stop this aggression from Kongya.
Yeah, but at the same time, they've had to rotate extra resources, right? Because they've pulled the support over. And while, yes, Wako has been still pretty comfortable in this bottom side, you have to wonder if this is how the first lane phase is going to go for Minji.
Oh,
okay.
Kongya goes in with the unstoppable
here.
onslaught, but only gets 1 into the back line, and it will be Wako coming up to pick up the pieces. 2 kills over to Beyond Gaming in a fight where J-Team started things.
Yeah, and that's one of the old strong points of Varus, is that he can clear waves pretty easily with that Q. But because of how far ahead he is, Lil V just can't walk up to the wave to shove back in a bit of a proactive manner. So he has to be on the reactive end, and as a result, Wako is able to make his way up into that top side and find that play.
Oh, we do have Driver popping the Ghost already. Liang is going to answer back with the explosive cask here. And things will go back to normal. Nothing too hype going to happen into the top side for sure. But taking a look at this play, I'm very surprised J-Team were the ones to pull the trigger here.
Yeah, it looked like they were tunneled in on saying, hey, we can burst out Huxia in this instance. And I mean, they were pretty close, but it was really all they could hope for. Jeez.
Oh, well, if you didn't succeed the first time, try and try again. Uniboy's going to get the first kill, and now Liang is in trouble. The Herald goes down. Liang still has a flash, but is not going to be able to use that one. Huge play for J-Team as they find the jungle, they find the top laner. That's most likely the first brick as well in this play.
And this is such a strong top half of the map now, right? Because Driver, he has a 15 CS lead. Somewhat expected there. Kongya, he is still ahead of Huxia, even though CS-wise they are very similar. But in this mid lane, that is the largest gap. Uniboy so far ahead. 20 CS lead, now 3 kills to his name. Completed Ludens, he's going to have his completed Sork boots as well. Like, anyone that shows up in front of him is just going to get deleted. Even Liang, who doesn't have any sort of magic resistance stacked up, he's going to get massively chunked out too.
Oh, the damage calculations. Absolutely beautiful right there. Just spot
He
on
was
with the last
100-0 in that moment.
He did get some help from the Krugs, but damn, that was very close. And another easy sweep pickup kill here from Uniboy. Do want to mention that Tryndamere got massive amounts of gold in that play alone. Two towers going down, and it does feel like it's Wako against the world at this point.
Yeah, and the issue is the speed of engage coming in from J Team is pretty hard to deal with as a Varus alone, right? You only have an ult for one target, but when you have a set running at you, when you have a Hecarim sprinting at you, and then you have a Ghost Tryndamere running at you, you only have one out. You can only lock down 1 out of 3 targets, and the other targets just are so ahead right now.
Oh, we are going to have Husha smiting down the Drake, but Driver is coming in. Will he chase over the ramp? Yes, he will. Goes in. Uniboy finds the stun, but only onto Liang, the tankiest member on the squad. And Beyond Gaming are able to back out of this one fairly unscathed. They're holding their position in the mid wave, making sure that they can escort this tower in. Meanwhile, Enzo dodges it out on the ultimate, but the dredge line hits. Now we have Korea going in. They don't find the kill onto Husha just yet. The Dragon's Rage is going to escort Driver away, and Beyond Gaming get away with murder.
Oh my god, what a scatter of the week coming in from Uniboy. Almost deletes 2 members just with that combo alone, but it's not enough. And now Lil V, he's back to trying to CS minions against the Varus of Wako. And man, Beyond Gaming get out by the skin of their teeth. Yes, Enzo, he sort of got caught out and it did go down, but that very much could have just been such a massive win for J Team, and Beyond Gaming are very fortunate.
I have to agree with you. That backline, that got me sweating for a while, and Uniboy is off to the races with this 3-0-0. We've always mentioned when J Team do well, it's because Uniboy is ahead. That win condition is very much online at this point. They are going to find the second Herald of the game. It doesn't look like Beyond Gaming have a way to engage. However, Wako is dealing a lot of damage. We did see that piercing arrow just chunk Lil V down to half HP. They're going to be making a run at the mid lane tower right here. Let's see if Uniboy can find more of those scatter the weeks here. We'll clear the entire minion wave. And it looks like Beyond Gaming right now, they have to shift gears. And I do want to ask you about this Drake fight here. Beyond Gaming, do you think they are better in the 5? Oh my god. And so nearly gets taken down just by Wako's 2 abilities. And we have Beyond Gaming very much eyeing at this Infernal Dragon Soul. They already have 2 in the back here, and if they can take the mid lane tower, that's open season for the Drake stack to happen. Do you think Beyond Gaming actually has the better team fight here?
Their team fight is pretty strong, right? Because they have more traditional front to back, slightly easier execution. But again, when you look on the other side, you have this Tryndamere, you have this Hecarim, just their only target is the Varus, right? They don't have to worry about the Vex because the Vex has somewhat been ineffective so far coming in from Minji. So their only target is to remove this Varus pick, and if they remove it early on as well, Varus wants to be able to poke at the start of fights. If you don't give them that window, it makes it a lot easier for J Team to just straight up win the 5v5.
And we'll see how J Team can focus on to Wako here. It seems like Wako will be going for the Sorellia's Grudge here as his 3rd item. J Team now with the Herald looking for targets to snipe off. Maybe drop the Herald a little bit early. Don't get anything just yet, but you can tell at this point the 3-man topside squad from J Team is far stronger than what Beyond Gaming can confront at this point. Looks like J Team are just going to be shifting around the map, trying to catch people off. They do have a lot of mobility, and nobody can contest Kongyue and Uniboy, this duo right now. Does look like they're heading for Liang's lane in the bottom side. Ping's going across everywhere, and the Herald is dropped here. Liang decides to abandon the tower, and just give over the gold to Driver.
Yeah, not a whole lot that the Gragas can do in this instance. Being a bit left out to dry, but now with only 45 seconds until that Inferno Dragon, we'll see how Beyond Gaming come and attack this dragon, because they do need Dragon Soul to really come back into this at the moment. Just because it feels like J-Team, they're the ones to really control the map. They also really control the pace of the game, because of the only strong member on the side of Beyond Gaming is Wako, and he's constantly stuck mid trying to wave clear. So if they're able, they have so many other options to attack, taking a big chunk there, and that's not going to fare well for their chances to try and get into the river for this dragon.
Kongria also revving up on the side, just making sure that Wako plays on his toes, and they have full vision control. Husha going to be the one to face check. We have the TP from Gragas just to get into position right here. As the Drake finally will start, they find one of the flanks into Enzo, and he's gone with the face break. But did he get in too early? Minji now finds the backline. They kill Uniboy. Double kill from Leon. Enzo is also down. Driver does find Wako at the very end. But this is a one fight for Beyond Gaming. They're chasing the stragglers down. Driver trying to find a kill before he times out, but he can't get it. Minji will have a massive effect in this team fight. Beyond Gaming resoundingly win the fight and head over to Soul Point.
And it's Beyond Gaming that are able to find the catch onto Uniboy. That really knocks all, or starts knocking down all the rest of the dominoes in that team fight. We'll get to see the replay right after this, but what a massive team fight win for Beyond Gaming as they keep their Game 1 hopes alive, setting themselves up for Soul Point. And man, things are definitely getting heated up. It looked like Enzo, he had the angle to try and engage onto Wako, but he gets knocked back, and as a result, Wako is able to survive the start of that fight. We mentioned that, hey, if Wako gets taken down, that could just be fight over. It ended up not playing out in the exact case, because yes, he did get chunked out. He was zoned off of the fight, but the rest of the team, they were able to find the kills regardless.
Let's get the POV view of Minji right
here.
It's a full combo, and Uniboy doesn't get to flash or use his ultimate. So it actually ends up being Beyond Gaming with the 2-0 lead right off the bat in this critical team fight. Minji with a massive find. I love this POV right here. Essentially gets the double for Gragas, and then gets the big shutdown for himself as well.
Yeah, and will be not having fun still.
Kino gonna get target out right here, but it takes a fair bit of time for him to finally fall. J-Team still are gonna find the lead here, get the straggler kill, and also the mid-game tower. So in terms of the gold, J-Team, they do retake the lead after that play. The only problem is they are facing that massive potential Infernal Soul at 25 minutes into the game.
Yeah, and this is a big win condition because of it really amplifies Wako's power on this Varus, and now Driver could be caught out.
Oh, we do have the body slam onto him. Driver gonna get knocked back into a fear with Minji. Doesn't get to pop the ultimate and just falls down like that. So J-Team and Beyond Gaming, they've been doing a very good job trading blows with each other.
Yeah, Driver a little bit out of position in that instance, but still great positioning coming in from Liang, waiting patiently for Minji to get in position as well, and able to find that pick. So Beyond Gaming answer tit for tat, and them being able to stay even on gold still bodes relatively well for their chances in this mid game. Of course, we're looking at J-Team having slightly better late game with the fact that the Hecarim is able to team fight a little bit better than the Lee Sin, and the Tryndamere still offers you value, although not necessarily as much as something like a Gragas. And one of the things we do also have to be aware of is one of the last times we saw Driver on this Tryndamere, he did overextend himself a little bit too deep at times with the Tryndamere pick, trying to overdive on the back line. So hopefully he doesn't commit to those instances this time around, but just something to keep track of.
I do want to point out his build as well. He is going for the Navori Quick Blades, not the Hullbreaker that is usually taken. So it does seem like to me he really wants to get into the back line, secure those kills with the extra crits and the extra uses of the E here. Once again, J-Team will have positional advantage coming into this critical Dragon Soul fight. Beyond Gaming hanging around in the peripherals. They do have 2 teleports this time around, so could find flanks that we weren't aware of, but so far it looks like both sides just happy to push in this mid, and Little V has to be a little bit careful here. Leon coming in with the engage first. They are going to start up onto Enzo and Uniboy, but Wako on the other hand is about to go down. He's just alive for now, but he finally does die. Driver is still alive, and he's chopping down targets here. So in the end, it will be a 2-for-3 trade, but Little V goes down, and Uniboy is the only one alive. Super scattered fight, but once again, Beyond Gaming find their mark.
Yeah, and it's J-Team once more over-diving onto the backline of Beyond Gaming. Uniboy, I mean, he gets the deletion there, but at the same time, like, he got zoned off at the fight at the very start. Yes, he doesn't die, but he has to flash over the Raptor wall. That means there's about, like, 4 screens of distance he has to cover to get back to his team. And Syndra, not one of those champions that has any jump. So we get to see the replay here. He gets jumped, he gets knocked into the team, and he flashes over, yes, but look at where the rest of the fight is. It's all the way over at the Baron pit. He's just nowhere close to that moment, and now, I mean, J-Team, they do a good job in executing the backline, but they don't have the cooldowns to then finish off the rest of the fight.
Yeah, overall, that was a 3-for-4 fight. It did give Vision control
Dragon Soul
Beyond Gaming. And here comes the critical one. A lot of poke damage being done. Kongria down to half HP. Can he survive this one? He does have his ultimate, but not the one from Uniboy. So lacking a lot of burst damage. You do get the stun from Leon. Very tense situation as both sides are jockeying. J-Team cannot give this objective over. I feel like Beyond Gaming, just with the poke advantage, they're going to keep them there. And indeed, that's what they do right now. They're going to start back on the Infernal Dragon once more. Little V is hiding outside of Vision. The Drake will reset, giving J-Team a little bit more time to figure out their path of engage. Oh, but Little V takes HP down to half, and so he can't find the angle. He actually gets found himself, and he goes down. That makes the fight a 5v4. Little V forced to use the Feather Storm early. They have to steal this Drake, but Kogri's not near enough. They give over the Infernal Soul, and in comes Minji into the backline. He's gonna snipe off Uniboy. He's still... he doesn't have the charge for the Shadow Search anymore, but it doesn't matter. Beyond Gaming has found the objective. They found the kills and the team fight, and now they're gonna run forward towards the Baron.
Oh my god, Beyond Gaming, they are just tooling J-Team on these objective fights. Yes, J-Team are able to find those instances where they are able to execute onto the backline, but when it comes to playing around the Dragon against this Varus, they just don't know how to play against it. They constantly take chip damage, and one of the big differences is their ability to also tank the Dragon. There's just so much more healing with the sustain coming in from the Lee Sin on that W, and also the durability of this Gragas. Whereas on the flip side, like Hecarim, when he starts taking that chip damage, unless he pops the W, which is also a long cooldown, he isn't able to get that HP back. They find Enzo at the start of this fight, and that's really just it, because Konya and Driver, they aren't set up to dive the backline. They're not in a good position for this fight. So when Enzo, really the only flank member, gets taken down, they don't have any engage left.
Yeah, that was such I would say a kind of a ridiculous play from Enzo. There was no way he could find that flank, and he didn't even try to vision clear that one. He just walked through double wards and sort of died. So very shocked at that outcome here. Beyond Gaming does manage to secure the Baron across, I believe, 5 different members here, and they are going to be pushing down onto the top side. J-Team, they are prompted to defend here. They will potentially leave Driver still pushing onto the bot lane. It looks like Beyond Gaming still will take 2 uncontested towers and take a decisive gold lead. The first time the gold lead has actually shifted decidedly into one team's favor.
Yeah, this is our first clear shift in the gold differential. And I feel like this J-Team game in game number 1 reminds me of the game that they had against PSG, where they had a scaling composition, they had big advantages, and then they tossed it all away at the Dragon because they just couldn't figure out how to set their composition up to succeed in these objective fights. And we're going down that same rabbit hole once more. J-Team, yes, they still have some scaling left, right? This Syndra pick still incredibly powerful, but against these Baron minions, it becomes a lot harder to clear out these minions. The backline dive has not been there. Now Driver goes for a 3rd item Hull Breaker, but with Hull Breaker, you want to be split pushing. He's not split pushing. And he doesn't have a set. And we might have lost Clement.
Oh, excuse me right there. I accidentally muted myself. Enzo just goes down like that. He doesn't get to use anything. Now Driver is on a one-man mission to get some gold back for the team. But Beyond Gaming are barreling down as 5. They have the Baron right here. Someone has to go back to defend, though. They're not really outpacing the Tryndamere on this one. But one more extra kill, and that just could be the game end. So J-Team have to play very careful. We have Kongya in. This could be an engage opportunity. He's looking for the angle, but he's not going to find it just yet. Now, Driver on the flip side, is he going to go for the potential flank? Nah, he's just going to walk back and cut the minions.
Yeah, considered going for the long con there, but with the empowered recalls coming in from Beyond Gaming, it would have been very difficult for them to force the issue there. And J-Team, they honestly made the best option they could in that instance, right? You give yourself a bit of a win condition if you are able to win a decisive fight and the minion wave is set up mid, you will be able to just straight up win the game at that point because of that exposed inhibitor. However, at the same time, Beyond Gaming do get what they want in that bot in hit. So both sides kind of achieve their goals there, and now it comes down to this Elder fight that is going to be coming up in 90 seconds. Can J-Team fix their objective issues?
Find out in the next one, because so far J-Team's weaknesses throughout the entire split still seem to be there, and we do have Kongya just getting caught out. The jungler is going to go down before anything even happens. Driver on the flank isn't able to find any damage onto Wako before he loses a member. And J-Team, they've just been bleeding out members left and right throughout this entire game. Beyond Gaming always find the pick somehow.
You know, on this combo of Nautilus and Varus, so oppressive, right? Wako's so good on this Varus pick, and Kino's there to accept the pass straight into the hook, and now it looks like they are on a clear path to end the game because they get the second inhib. Now you're going to get that second wave of super minions pouring through, and then they can turn their attention over to this Elder Dragon. There will be, or Kongya will have respawn, so he will be able to make it for this fight, but they are setting up to try and collapse onto J-Team, perhaps pick them off as they make their way over to the Dragon.
J-Team have to go over, and Beyond Gaming are not going to give them the chance. They find Uniboy with the Shadow Surge. Kongya has to go for the backline. No other choice. Uniboy still falls down anyway, and so into the back, but they aren't able to kill Wako. Driver still alive. Can he save this? No, he falls down, and Beyond Gaming get the ace in game 1. So many picks, so many catches. Beyond Gaming make a statement for themselves. The cleanest game they had so far in postseason, and they will draw first blood in this series from the lower bracket.
And J-Team woes continue. Now down to 0-4 in their playoff performance with this new roster. Beyond Gaming, I feel like they stunned everyone with this game 1, and now J-Team fans have to be sent reeling here.
Wako is so damn happy about this performance. You could see him smiling all the way through. Even from the mask, you could tell how happy he was. This is the first time Beyond Gaming has actually taken down J-Team in the entire split. The head-to-head was 0-2. Honestly, their solo lanes were not going well, but Wako, through his bot lane and his Varus play, is able to make it through regardless.
Yeah, and he bought enough time for Minji to find those impactful ultimates, and honestly, Minji in these objective fights, so critical in being able to generate picks onto Uniboy. And unfortunately for the side of J-Team, they just didn't have any protection for the Syndra in this composition. They were so focused on the dive with this set, with this Hecarim and with this Tryndamere, that they completely forgot about the strong member, or the strongest member on their team, which was that Syndra.
You know, talking about the dive as well, we just never saw a coordinated engage on J-Team's terms. You know, we outlined in the draft, this is very simple. It's a triple dive comp. You have Set, you have Hecarim, and you have Driver. Wako should die every single team fight. It should not be that difficult to kill him. But every single time, what we saw was either Uniboy getting killed first, Enso getting killed first. We never saw three people running at Wako, and to Wako's credit, he actually survived throughout the most part of this game. I didn't expect that at all.
Yeah, it took a lot of effort. Even the times that they were able to kill him, right? It still took a lot more time for them to kill the Varus than for the Syndra to die. So Syndra being knocked out of so many of these fights, that has to be an issue that J-Team go back and address, because honestly, Uniboy performed so well in this game number one, right? Where but a lot of the last things where he ends up getting caught out, I don't put it really onto him. It just comes down to the fact that if Lil V is underperforming in lane, what other target is there to try and tunnel onto, right? It became very much a Wako versus Uniboy battle, but Minji also was able to find a way to step up, whereas Lil V was unable to.
I'll be completely honest. I feel like J-Team were just too indecisive. Like, this isn't a hard comp to run, and in my opinion, even if Uniboy dies, it's not really that big of an issue. He goes in and he flashes in, he uses his ultimate. If he dies, that's whatever. He doesn't have damage anyway, so that's not too bad for you. But I just feel like J-Team, they never were in a position where they were just like, okay, we're gonna pull the trigger, 1, 2, 3, everyone just run at Wako. In my humble opinion, I feel like if they just ran at them, just head first on, and Uniboy just flash in every single team fight, they actually would have been better than what they ended up with. They took so much poke in these team fights. They were trying to like outthink and like have some 200 IQ play where Enso somehow finds a flank behind enemy lines and he just gets killed in the end. And it was just like,
I mean,
it's not that hard. Just run at them, run.
Yeah, it also should have just been Uniboy flashing forward rather than backwards. If he flashes forward, gets a scatter of the week onto 2 or 3 members, that's instantly fight done, right? Because the Varus is such a slow champion when it comes to how he develops in these team fights, that you just engage immediately, fight's done, the Varus doesn't get to do anything. But J-Team, again, as you mentioned, indecisive, and that has remained the trend in the first 4 games of their playoff run.
All right, I'm going to have to tax your galaxy brain right here. I'm J-Team's coach right now. Little V is not performing up to his normal standards. Let's be completely honest. And my dive compositions don't work. So I can't play with range, and I can't play with melee either. What comp can I go for right now? If I'm J-Team's coach, I'm looking at my options, and I'm not really sure where I go from this. I can't play the short range comp. I can't play the long range comp. What do I do?
Yeah, this becomes very difficult, right? And I think it comes down to if you had maybe a more team fight oriented top laner, that could also help. Perhaps the Ornn pick here for Driver. Yes, I know they wanted to deny the Tryndamere away from the island because he's just so comfortable on the champion, but the Ornn in this composition would have given you some of the defensive power and also the long range engage possibilities that they just didn't have. And while it looks like it was a very easy comp to execute, J-Team, again, like, perhaps the Ornn ultimate would have made the decision a lot easier for them.
Okay, so I like your answer right there. You know, maybe you give a little bit more room, and you have a solid front line where, honestly, I think you have to shift your main carry over to Uniboy. You have to do that. He has to be on something that's sustained damage, and can actually carry them through team fights.
I mean, these damage numbers are absurd, Clement. Like, look at the Zion numbers. Barely, just under 8k. You compare that damage to Lee Sin. Lee Sin doesn't do a whole lot of damage in the complete scope of a game, and he just barely scrapes above that, right? And then you also look at the big carry, the other big carry of your team for J-Team, that's Kongre, and he only contributes 5,800. And you have to also question the fact that he went for the phase rush Hecarim when against some of this low damage, low range composition, besides the Varus on the side of Beyond Gaming. He could have gone for a Conqueror and just 1v9'd almost.
Yeah, I definitely could have right here. This damage graph, again, as you're mentioning, it just looks so incredibly lopsided. And I remember in the ban picks, we actually felt like J-Team had the more coherent composition, like the just flash in and kill composition. But we will be handing the MVP to Minji. I think very well deserved this game.
Yeah, he had a bit of a rough lane phase, gave up a kill over to Uniboy. Uniboy honestly looked fantastic during the early onset of this game, but Minji, when it came to these objective fights, when it came to the team fighting, that's where he really shined, being able to hit key targets in the back line, delete multiple members repeatedly, time and time again. He was the highlight, but we have to shout out Wako on this Varus pick to get them to that point, because if he didn't have that strong lane phase, Beyond Gaming would have no legs to stand on.
Absolute chef kiss to Wako's play here. Minji did get some critical plays, I think especially on the third Drake. And before we go into the break and the second game, I just want to remind everyone of J-Team right now. They are the second seed of the PCS. It would be the biggest upset ever if they don't win a single game in their postseason.
Yep, they've still yet to show up, and hopefully they do so because time's ticking.
See you next game.